today is have a look at some of the wedding trends that are coming up for 2024. Now, these aren't specifically cake wedding trends, but some of them do have an implication for wedding cakes and things that we can perhaps tap into, if you like, to see if we can make the best advantage of these trends that are happening. So, and do chat to me while we're going. If you've noticed customers asking you for particular things, or you've noticed a trend happening, do let us know, because it's great to find out what people are being asked. So far, my trends for next year, people are wanting the sugar flowers. They're wanting classic white wedding cakes with sugar flowers. But then that's sort of what I do anyway. So it might be that they've just come to me because that's what I do. But yeah, so that is what I'm finding. But of course, you and your customers, your ideal clients, you might be finding something else. But I'm always saying, as part of the wedding industry, we have to remember that we are part of an industry. And when we're talking to customers, we have to remember that. Oh, hang on, I haven't recorded. Bear with. Hang on. So wedding trends for 2024. When we are talking to customers, we have to remember that they are dealing with not only us as cake makers, but they are dealing with a whole range of suppliers. I could list them. Venue is the one that strikes me as the sort of the first one, really the most important for them. And then you've got obviously photography, you've got florists, you've got dress, you've got catering, you've got loads and loads and loads. So it is worth remembering that we're not their only supplier that they're emailing, which is sometimes why they might not come back to you immediately and all that kind of stuff, because they're trying to juggle and deal with a whole load of other people. And sometimes their decisions for us depend on the decisions that the other suppliers are making, or so it might be that they have to leave us for a couple of days until they get the decision on this bit. So it's all very much a juggling act as far as our customers are concerned. So it's always worth remembering that. But in terms of trends for 2024, Hitched, and now I'm a member of Hitched, I sign up for their directory, but this you can actually access for free. And if we go to here, I can show it to you. Here we are. So this, you can get to it if you go onto Hitched and go to weddings, wedding ideas, planning essentials, 11 key trends for 2024. That's where you'll find it. And Zoe Burke, she's the sort of the head honcho in Hitched, so it's worth remembering that name around. So let's have a look through then and see which bits of these might have useful things for us to know. So 11 wedding trends. Right, then the first one they're talking about is celebrant-led wedding ceremonies. And this article is actually based on search engines and the volume of search. You'll see, percentages and things come out. So there's been a 49% increase in search volume for celebrant weddings in the past year, with 880 monthly searches now taking place. And traffic to our article about celebrant-led weddings has increased by an incredible 157%, showing a clear trend for unique wedding ceremonies. Now, I am thinking that one thing that we can do to tap into this, if celebrants are becoming popular, let's get on Instagram and find celebrants local to us whose account we can follow and whose accounts we can comment on. So the people that are following them can then see us as cake makers coming in. So that could be one thing that you could start to look for or search for celebrants in your area, see which ones come up on Insta, see which ones have got a good Insta presence and have lots of followers that might be your ideal client. And, you know, jump on the bandwagon, if you like, get to know them, get to talk to them, engage with them, and so on. So that's what I would suggest with that one. And it talks a little bit here. I mean, obviously you can look at the article yourself, but it talks about, you know, famous celebrity couples going for, you know, a registry office, but then having a celebrant-led, you know, big celebration afterwards. And actually on that, you can find a link to, these are only celebrants that are signed up to Hitched, but obviously that's a good start if you want to find some. Number two, I'm not sure number two really gives us any advantages, but they're talking about film wedding photography as opposed to digital. The trend now is to get your wedding video done on film rather than digital. And it's increased. Search volume for film wedding photography has increased by 266% this year. So obviously that's, I don't know, is it similar to, you know, when we were all doing CDs and vinyl went out, didn't it? And then a few years later, people were finding that vinyl was quite trendy and it made a comeback. And now music artists will sell their music on vinyl. So it's sort of a retro thing, isn't it? And this is probably similar to that. So I'm not sure it's got any direct implications for us as wedding people, but it could be something that you talk to your clients, you know, your customers about, just something you can drop in conversation, that you're aware that film photography is becoming, you know, having an upsurge. And all these things that you know about the wedding industry will just give you that extra sort of expert status. You know, you're someone who knows about the wedding industry, which is always a good thing, isn't it? Oh, hello, Nicola. Hello, my lovely. Nice to see you here. Now, this one, wedding weekenders. This is an interesting one. So apparently there's a trend that's coming up whereby wedding couples are not just booking the day and the night before, they're booking the whole weekend. So from Friday to, you know, brunch on the Sunday with all their guests. There is, I mean, those that know, you know, the American sort of system, if you like, in America, they have the rehearsal dinner the night before. And I'm not sure that rehearsal dinner itself is becoming a trend over here, but certainly, you know, having a get together the night before the wedding. So I wonder, you know, what can we tap into with that? Can we tap into, you know, buying your guests or providing your guests with some, you know, biscuits on their arrival at their, you know, in their wedding room, or can you give them some thanks for joining us biscuits on the Sunday? This is sort of completely bonkers off the top of my head. And the other thing I did think of, actually, although it's not specifically perhaps to do with wedding weekenders, I went to a wedding a while back and had to go and see the bride to ask her a question about the cake. And I went into the room, and of course they were all there, they're really excited, and they were, you know, getting ready and stuff. And I saw on the table, there was a whole table full of chocolate and biscuits and all sorts of things. And I thought, oh, I wonder if there's a market for, you know, getting ready biscuits or something, you know, getting ready cupcakes, having some personalized, you know, say biscuits or treats or some sort that you can have in your wedding room. Or it could be something that a bridesmaid might buy as a present for the bride, or the bride might buy it as a present for the bridesmaids. There's some kind of, you know, possibility there for, you know, for some other products that we can sell, if you like, or offer. These are all things that we can offer to help our couples, particularly brides, make the most of the, the weekend that they're having. So that was quite interesting. The wedding weekenders, how can we tap into, could you have a night before cake or something? I think in America they have a groom's cake tradition, don't they? Does anyone know any about that? I don't know if anyone knows anything about that, but I'm sure I've heard that a groom's cake that possibly happens the day before or the night before. Perhaps I need to look that up. But yeah, are there possibilities in there that we could tap into? Wedding veils. Again, I'm not sure. Apart from tapping into the Insta accounts, I've on wedding fairs, and I'm sure some of you have too, met wedding veil makers. I've met a couple who embroider the most amazing things on wedding veils, and that is all they do. So again, link with them on Insta, comment on their accounts, get to know them, and through getting to know them, you are then getting to know their clients as well. And you might find that their clients have a look at this, who's this wedding cake person that keeps commenting? Oh, look at her cakes, aren't they fabulous? So yeah, worth a look there, I think. It is. Oh, it is, Jill. Yes. Do you know when those generally happen in the whole scheme of the wedding day in America? Do you have any idea? I don't know where that works. If you know, tell us, because I'd like to know. I'm intrigued. So that's right. This one might have things for us. Retro wedding style. So lots of wedding couples are going retro, 70s weddings. Look at that dress, isn't that fabulous? So if, retro is the kind of thing that your ideal client might tap into, are you going to perhaps create some portfolio cakes, or when you go to wedding fairs, might you have a retro style cake to tap into that trend? It might be worth having a look to see what 70s style, 60s style, perhaps even 80s style as well, to see what kind of things are going on with that, because that might be worth looking into. Obviously, it all depends on your ideal client. If they're not the kind of people that would go for that, or if the style of cake that is retro isn't your signature style, then you might not want to, but it's worth having a look and seeing if there's anything you can tap into there. Oh, that's Brow's hairstylist, so they're talking about hair there, but anything. Yeah, the things on television here, I'm just reading here, TV such as Mrs. Maisel, that was sort of 50s, 60s, wasn't it? If you didn't know that one. So beautiful. I love that 50s, 60s style. So yeah, so it might be worth tapping into that. 6, wedding saxophonists. Who'd have thought it? Apparently it's been a creeping trend for some time now, but wedding saxophonists are coming into the mainstream for 2024. Those of you that are old enough to remember the 80s or old enough to, I was a late teen in the 80s. And, tunes like Careless Whisper, George Michael, that the sax was sort of iconic. And lots of, pop music copied that. So the saxophone was really big in the 80s, but it's died off a little bit. But it looks like it's coming back. So whether that has anything that we can tap into, I don't know, but it's worth knowing, Interesting. Now this one might be interesting. Wedding rentals. Oh, thank you, Jill. I think it's on the day itself. Apparently, usually dark chocolate or liqueur to contrast the wedding cake. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. Saxophone players have been really popular lately, especially at Asian weddings. Have they? Oh, thank you. Hello, pretty. That's interesting. Asian weddings. Great, thank you. Oh, so it contrasts with the wedding cake itself. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get that. Yes. Interesting. Thank you for your input there. That's really good to know. Do you know, I wouldn't have put saxophone with Asian wedding. I really wouldn't have done, but that's an interesting trend that's happening. Fab. Right, wedding rentals. Now, there might be something here, and I saw that Nicola was on. I don't know if you're still watching, Nicola, but I'm sure it's Nicola that has wedding cake dummies that she hires out. Is that you, Nicola? Are you still here? I'm sure it's Nicola. So she has some cakes, beautiful creations that are all dummy that she just hires out. So if couples obviously want, an eye-catching cake, but either have fewer guests or they want to bring the cost down or whatever it is, they hire the cake and then perhaps have some sheet cakes or some, non-fancy things to cut up for the guests to have. So it might be worth considering whether that is a service that you might want to provide. Have a set of dummy cakes that you hire out, obviously a lot cheaper than actually making the cake. You'd have to consider, oh, it is you. I thought it was. How do you find it, Nicola? Do many people ask for them? Do you rent them out a lot? I presume you have sort of moderately hefty deposit to account for any damage that might happen. And obviously in your T&Cs, you'd have to be fairly robust with, getting them back to you. But do you find it works well? Do let us know in the comments if you find that. But I'm wondering if that trend might increase. And if so, it might be worth seeing if, considering tapping into that, having a few cakes. Yes, you can rent this cake and I will make you some sheet cakes to go with it. That's a service that you might think of providing. I'll wait and see if Nicola can give us some insight on that. I know there's a delay between me speaking and you listening to this, so we'll see. But it'd be great if you could just give us a few pointers, Nicola. That would be fabulous. But it's saying here that wedding dress hire, that's grown by 50% last year. People, Googling hire wedding dress has grown by nearly a third. Wedding hire. So yeah, they're renting and hiring rather than buying. You can understand that really, can't you, for lots of things. Oh, thank you, Nicola. It's really popular. I use all my wedding fair dummies and add to them all the time. They all have a wedge cut out of the bottom tier, which is, oh, that's brilliant. Which is cake, so they can cut it too. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. So absolutely, we're all going to steal that idea, Nicola. But that is brilliant, isn't it? If that's something you can offer, a cake that might be, £700-800 if it was actually cake. Obviously, the cost of hiring the dummy version is going to be a lot less, with deposit, of course, but then they'd get that back. But yeah, to actually have a section where they can actually do the cutting, that is genius, isn't it? Fantastic. So definitely something to think about and look at and cost, that one, I would say. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Nicola. That's really useful. What else have we got here? Wedding dress codes. Do you know, I don't know if you're like me and you scroll on, Facebook and places like that. And as soon as you start looking at anything wedding related, lots more come up because it's the algorithm, isn't it? And do you get all these websites that have stories, of disastrous weddings and stories of demanding brides and all those kind of things? And I've seen quite a few where that the bride has demanded that her guests wear specific things, and has got rather put out when they've said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not wearing that. I'm not coming then. And other ones where there's some brilliant ones of what the mother-in-law of the, you know, what the groom's mother has worn to the wedding, and pictures of this, you know, woman in sort of white. And you think, oh my goodness me, I'd be so cross. You know, you turn up in your beautiful wedding dress and there's your mother-in-law wearing something similar. Goodness me. But wedding dress codes. I mean, this really is an ideal client one. You know, if you've got the kind of client that want to plan their wedding within an inch of their lives, they are likely to have a code. So it might be worth just knowing that that is a thing that's coming up. So if you talk to your guests about their cake, you might want to mention, oh, are you having a dress code? Are your guests having a dress code? Because that might have an influence on, you know, the style or the design of the cake somewhere. You know, if the guests have been asked to not wear a certain colour or to wear a certain colour, is that going to be, you know, in this whole scheme of the design of the wedding, which would obviously influence the cake design as well, wouldn't it? Oh, brilliant, Nicola, thank you. You charge 150 to hire plus delivery with a £200 deposit. Brilliant. Oh, that's really useful information. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I can imagine that that would go down quite well. Does that include the bit of cake, or would the cake that you provide be extra on top of that? Is the 150 just the dummy? So I'm asking you all the questions now. But of course, it's you know, it's very little work, isn't it? You've just got your dummy, pick it up, put it in the car, take it, and then pick it up afterwards or whatever. Far less work hours, isn't it, than actually making the thing. But there we go. Yes, so wedding dress codes, worth knowing that they're, you know, possibly becoming a thing. Possibly something that's, I don't know, coming over from America. Do they have it? I mean, all these things that I see that I told you about on Facebook, you know, they're generally American websites where brides have, in fact, there was one, I think it's probably quite a few years old now, but the bride, you might have seen it, the bride had planned her wedding with some kind of video, and she wanted some guests to wear a really weird, it was green with red hats or something, and some of them to wear black. And she told the guests that if they were over a certain weight, they had to wear black because they were going to be in the background. I mean, it was just, the whole thing was just appalling, because she had this vision of making this video with all her guests doing something and creating a picture or something. But it went viral, this thing, because everyone was saying, no, bugger off. You know, but anyway, yes. Oh, hello, Abby. Hello, Derez Bakes. Nice to see you here. So yeah, so again, just something worth knowing, something possibly to chat to your couples about, something to talk about. What have we got here? Wedding gifts. Oh, what's trending about wedding gifts? The wedding trend is sparked by guests, not necessarily couples. Search for wedding gift idea has more than doubled in the past year. Guests are moving away from the concept of giving cash as a wedding gift in favour of choosing a thoughtful gift they've selected themselves with a little help from the search results. Traffic to our own wedding gift idea. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not sure if there's something we can tap into there. I'm not sure that guests would give baked goods as gifts, would they? But they might give, you know, as a little gift in the morning when you get ready. Here's some cupcakes or something. I don't know. But an interesting one, because when I don't know whether it's still very much, you know, a wedding registry. When I got married in, you know, 1872. Where did we have ours? Marks and Spencer's, I think we signed up to Marks and Spencer's. Whether they still do it or not, I have no idea. But we got our, you know, our nice crockery. Everyone gets nice crockery. You never use it. We haven't got any friends, so yeah. and I've still got some of it. He's taken some of it because we're divorced now. Just, but there are some things that I've, some nice saucepans that I got. We got that I've sort of kept. But yeah, Memones, and I think John Lewis. But I don't know, are they still a thing? Wedding registries? I should know that, you see, because it's something I should be chatting to my couples about, or at least something that you can talk about in conversation when you're chatting to them. Thank you, Nicola. It includes the cake. It's just a basic Victoria sponge, though. I only have to bake one layer, so it costs very little. I make about 120 on every hire for essentially a cake that would be sat doing nothing till a wedding fair. Brilliant. Brilliant. I think, Nicola, we're all going to jump on that bandwagon now and think about doing that. Brilliant. Thank you so much for letting us know that, Nicola. That's really useful information. Brilliant. Oh no, never mind. It's being recorded, and it'll go in the guide, so you can have a look back at the first bit. All right. So don't worry. No. Oh, were you on the home baking business community page? Yeah, that live is tomorrow evening, and that's about starting up a business. I'm just living all over the place because I haven't got any weddings this week, see, so I'm putting all my lives in this week. There we go. Oh yeah, so catch up, my lovely catch up. Yeah, so that was wedding gifts. Wedding tech. Weddings are about to get technical. Search for AI wedding has doubled in the past year, and new searches for AI wedding speech. Oh yeah, I could have guessed that. AI wedding invitations. Oh, so finding the wording for, all right, okay. It's interesting to see couples learning on new tech or leaning on new tech to help them with their wedding planning. I definitely recommend getting all the help. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that has any implications for us particularly. I think the days of AI cakes are way in the future. But again, something worth just being aware of, really. Savvy savings. You might not be surprised to hear that the search demand for budget weddings is up 306%, with hundreds of nearlyweds typing that into Google every month. Everything is getting more expensive, and so getting creative with your wedding budget, looking for wedding deals and finding ways to save will be a key part of 2024 planning. We've seen a 379% increase in traffic to our budging wedding venues article, and an increase in our guide to planning a wedding for 3,000. Okay, what you've got to remember here is that the budget wedding customer is a very different ideal client to the higher end wedding customer. Don't assume that all couples that are getting married are wanting to do it on a budget. Yes, there are going to be quite a few that will, but there are still higher end weddings and people wanting higher budget wedding cakes. I mean, if you think of the big picture, I'm always talking about this ideal client. If you're thinking about the big picture, and you're thinking, Lidl and Harrods, I'm always talking about Lidl and Harrods and Waitrose in between. There are people that still shop at all those shops. There are people that still buy Gucci. There are still people that still buy BMWs. There are, all those outlets are, all those businesses are still very much in demand. In fact, it's interesting, isn't it? In the news recently, there's all that issue about Wilko going bust. Of course, Wilko is probably seen, nearer the Lidl end of the shopping market, because they're, Wilko's ideal clients are going to be people with perhaps less income. So don't always assume that all couples are looking for a budget cake. Just beware when you are putting yourself out there and becoming visible that I would advise against using the word budget anywhere in what you do, unless that is what your niche is going to be. I am going to be making budget wedding cakes. you might want to think about wording. For example, I don't do it anymore, but I used to do a sort of no frills. In fact, that's what I called it. No frills wedding cake, 3 tiers, sugar paste, choice of 3 flavors, and collection only. And I think it was about £200 I charged for that. But I never used the word budget in there. I used low cost. I used value. I used, say, no frills. I don't do it anymore because that's not the kind of client I want to be attracting. But as I said, don't always assume that everyone wants a budget wedding. But you might want to have options for those clients for whom budget is very important. That's if they are your ideal client. Or amongst, your ideal client. So think about that. And don't, I'm always talking about ideal client and pricing. I'm banging on about pricing the whole time. But don't think because someone hasn't taken up your quote that you are too expensive. That is one of many, many reasons that they might not take you up on your quote. So don't start to panic and think, oh, I'm just too expensive, I've got to reduce my prices. Not the case, not the case. Of the last few wedding cakes that I have sold or, had booked in, I think the last 3 that I've booked all have been over £600, all of them. And those are moderately sort of bog standard, that's an awful word to use, but fairly standard cakes, nothing majorly special about them, about what I'm putting on them, in terms of, detail or anything like that. So just beware when you're thinking about, the budget wedding thing, that not everyone is looking for a budget wedding. Okay. Oh, look, that's the end. My little pricing rant there. So this article here, if you go on to Hitched, go to wedding ideas, there it is, ideas there, planning essentials. Is that it there? Hang on, there it is, planning essentials. So ideas, planning essentials, and there it is, there's the report for you, so you can find that. Okay. And in fact, Hitched has got quite a nice little sort of hang on. Trying to do 2 things at once here. Quite a few nice little articles about, wedding vows, quiz question, all the fun things. And it's worth just, even though they're not, most of them aren't cake specific, it is worth just having a glance through so that when you're talking to your couples, you can be speaking from an expert point of view. You know what's going on in the wedding industry, you know what's happening, you know what's popular, you know what's coming up, and it will make you sort of stand out more as, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. So, and there's some quite interesting things in here as well. And there's back in June, these ones, but it's all worth looking at. There we go. So that is, hang on, let's stop sharing there. Bring me back. Hello. So that's wedding trends. So it's worth having a look and seeing, now that we're sort of getting towards the end of this year's wedding season and we're starting to think of next year, and we're going into consultation and wedding fair season, where you're going to be, chatting away to all sorts of couples about all sorts of things. And if, as I said a couple of times, if you've got your finger on the pulse of the wedding industry and you know what's happening, and you are, you're linking with other people on Instagram so that you have connections that, you can talk about different things to wedding couples. you know, and they say, oh yes, our venue is this. You go, oh yeah, lovely venue, I love that place. Or they say, you know, our florist is, oh yes, I've worked with them before. Or yes, I follow them on Instagram, aren't they fabulous? You know, it all sort of helps to give you that, she knows what she's talking about, this one, you know, as opposed to when I first did wedding fairs, when I didn't have a clue. I look back at some of the wedding fairs I did when I first did wedding cakes, and I think, oh lordy. But it's all part of the learning curve, isn't it? It's all part of getting better at what you do, doing things not wrong necessarily, but doing things in the way that perhaps isn't the best way to do it. But you learn, don't you? That's all part of the fun of it all. Anywho, I will leave it there. I've got quite a bit of admin and bits and pieces to get on with now. So have a lovely day. Do keep us up to date with all your, you know, your weddings and your wedding fairs, and people are posting their wedding cakes into the group, which is fabulous. It's lovely to see other people's designs and what they've been making. And do keep us updated in what you're all up to and what you're doing. Oh, hello, Joanna. We're just finishing, Joanna, unfortunately, but this will be available. Once it's done, you'll be able to go back and watch it, and I'll put it in the guide so it's easy to see as well, easy to find. So yes, so have a lovely week. I'll be back in 2 weeks, I think, is when I'm going to do my next live. Not quite sure what on yet. If you've got any suggestions, do let me know. Otherwise, I shall find something that I think might be relevant to everybody. And have a lovely couple of weeks. Keep us up to date with what you're doing, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.